wow. It's quite dramatic, just going through the pre. That's very cool. I'm gonna get that on my stereo bus. Hi, I'm Tchad Blake. I'm here in Victorville, California with Audiopunks. I'm really excited about stuff like this. Echomixer. It's a pretty cool unit that you can use it different ways. You can use it as just a pre, which are these sections. You can use them singly, or you can put them together and one feeds the other to get some really good distortion, or just use it as saturation. You've got your global mixer down here and your global tone control, and then there's a send and a drive to the reverb unit, which is here. You can have a pre-delay, width control, and then your length. But you can use the two sections separately. There's the pop. That's pretty cool. Let's hear the reverb a bit. That's the drive into the reverb. I really love working in the box. I switched over to the box, or a hybrid system. When was it? In 2009 or 8? And I love it. It's a new tool. I'm excited about that. I like the fact that there's new tools. You use them differently than the analog days, and they react differently. They sound different. And to me, that's a good thing. It's almost like photography. A film camera, I like them both equally. I love film, and you can get really crazy things, and there's beautiful anomalies in film that happen, like grain and flaring or even fogging film. That can all be very desirable. Digital, you can get really clarity and no grain, which is also interesting. What I find the biggest difference is because I like both. They are different, totally different mediums. They look different. But the interesting thing for me, and the thing that I think about the most is, and how I make a decision whether to use film or digital, is more what it makes me do physically. It actually changes how you physically take a picture. I think these days mixing, there's a bit of a blurred line, whether it's just additional production or production. You can change things so greatly in the mix, you know, with retuning, speeding up, slowing down, gridding stuff, nudging stuff so it's not in time. Completely changing a song and the emotion of it. I like messing about and messing up sounds. If I hear somebody sends me something like, we love this, we are completely happy with this, we just want you to expand the top and the bottom and the width. Maybe, you know, if you can get the low end a little tighter, you know. I can say yes, but probably by the end of it, I will have muted half your instruments and distorted things and done a whole nother number, because that's what's fun for me. I do what emotionally sounds right to me. That's what's most important. I want somebody in South America or Africa or China or Russia or wherever, non-English speaking world, if I'm working in an English artist, I want them to get whatever emotion I can wring out of the music, and that includes the vocal, but not the lyrics. I want to get all the emotion I can get out of it. So even somebody who doesn't understand a word of English will, whoa, yeah, this is, you know. I mean, I listen to a rough mix first and foremost to just make sure I have all the instruments that are supposed to be in the session, because I've had trouble with that before, and not having a rough mix. But also to hear where an artist and producer, whoever it is, the moment they thought the song was finished, arrangement-wise, performance-wise, they put a rough mix down, they said, yeah, this just needs a good mix. Or, I'd like to hear this a lot differently, but the parts are all there and solid. I'll listen to it, and then I might go in a whole nother direction than they're rough. Again, that's not for everybody. I probably lose 3-4 gigs a year because of how I do things. I get the music, I get it in the studio, and I start to riff. It's really the only way I can work. If somebody says, do it differently, can you get it to the rough mix stage and then just expand it a little bit? Immediately I'm gonna go, well, that doesn't sound like much fun, you know? I can't just, you know, go, well, I'm getting paid. You know, I don't, it's just not how my brain works. And I would have a rough time. I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm one of those people that will be thinking all day, I gotta take out the garbage. I'll be thinking all day, and I know I'll do it because I'm remembering all day. Then somebody says, hey, take out the garbage. And I go, I don't want to do it. Do you know? I don't know what that is. it's probably a fault. I mean, I would call it an issue, all right? And I just have it. It doesn't cause me trouble except in this regard. It doesn't mean I can't work with people. I work with people all the time. Vocals too loud. I'd rather the guitar was like this. I go, yeah, fine, that sounds good. But if I think it's a bad idea, I'm going to say, we'd like you to put those guitar back. I'll say, okay, I'll put the guitars back. I'll do a mix like that. And they'll say, yeah, we like that. And I'll say, my preference is the other one. I don't think this has anywhere near the emotional impact. And I'll tell them. And if by the end of the record or the mix, they've put everything back to their thing, then if they want me to do an album, it wasn't fun for me. And I'll probably say, I don't think I'm the right guy. I find the best musicians that I listen to are ones that maybe do that and then forget it, and it's in their DNA. And when they sit down, they're not sitting there going, oh, this mode, and I'm going to do this chord, and I'm not thinking about it. They're just playing. And if they make a mistake, they riff off that. And if they make a mistake, then they riff off that. They're not going, oh, that was a flat 7 over a 13, blah, 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 and I really fucked it up, so now I've got to fix it by doing it. Who's thinking like that? And I think that's kind of how I mix. So if somebody comes along in the middle of it and says, you're playing the wrong chord over this mode, I think, well, it sounds good, doesn't it? Well, but it's wrong. I'm going to clam up. When you think about distortion, I like thinking in terms of, like, sometimes when there's things happening with humans or building stuff or whatever, you think about how does that fit into an evolution of an organism, whatever it is you want to think about. Why would that be of value? Anything that happens is like either of value or not, and it's either something that moves life along, or it's something that doesn't, and both can have value in the big picture. Maybe not so much value to the individual organism if you're dying. That kind of thing gets you thinking about these things. So it made me think years and years ago, when I was crunching stuff up and sending it out through, crashing the needles on 1176s with all the buttons pushed in, and mixing it in for a drum sound, it made me wonder, like, why does this appeal to me so much? What's going on here? And it appealed to, I wasn't the only one. There's distorted guitars for years. When I was starting out, there were some hip-hop records coming through, and they were using samples that were distorted from records, which I thought was brilliant, I always liked bands who used outdoor sounds like Pink Floyd, like using atmospheric sounds and incorporating that into music. It made me think about what distortion was. Why does it matter? And how does it happen in nature? Before we had audio and all these things to make distortion, where did distortion come from? It's usually things that are quite loud, right? And that's what distortion is. And then your ears distort if something's so loud. If it's a low frequency, it can distort your ears. So in the good old days of prehistoric humans, that would have, I think, signaled danger. I don't see how distortion would have been anything but danger, which then activates fight or flight in humans. How can you use that in music to give a sense of danger to certain, and that's what rock music did, distorting, it triggers, like, it's a chemical reaction, adrenaline or anything that happens, like you hear distortion or subs that you don't perceive as distorted, but if it's making your gonads wiggle, like, oh, whoa, what's going on? It's danger. It's all about danger. That's my kind of starting point from how to use distortion in a mix. And it needs contrast. If everything's distorted, then I think the brain just turns off and says, well, ooh, danger, but maybe not, So if you can create a journey with distortions, you need contrast. You need something clean, and then you need some distortion. And then maybe you can go total distorted, but then you need something clean. You need the contrast in order to guide somebody through a song emotionally. I got started in audio by just taking a mono cassette tape recorder and a microphone and waking up, I'd be going to school, and I'd wake up in the morning and put a 90-minute cassette in, and I'd have a pack of 90-minute cassettes, and I'd put that in, hit record, I'd get out of bed, go take a shower, go downstairs. I get in the car, you hear all the doors open and close and the car go. I drive to school. When that side, 45 minutes later, turn over the tape. And then after that, I'd put in a new tape. And by the end of the day, I had so many hours of recording. And, sad but true, I'd sit there and listen to it late at night. And I found that really, it's a contrast. I'm hearing outdoor sounds indoors in my room, sitting on my bed at night. And that to me is surreal. That makes my brain go, ooh, ooh. So what you're seeing there is if I get a sound that does that to me, it really makes my brain, almost like being a hunter out, and everything's static. And then you see a movement out of the corner of your eye of something dangerous. And you go, ooh, wait a minute. I saw movement over here. Be careful. I think the learning process that I've been through has been pretty good. I've had a pretty good time in the studio. I didn't start in a studio, and that was as a runner and basically a janitor until I was either 23 or close to it. I didn't even know the job had really existed to be an engineer. I did a little bit, but not so much. I didn't know what it was. I feel like if I had started in my teens, like right out of school, that would have been cool. I would have liked to have gotten into it sooner. There's no mistakes, right? There's no, oh, I should have done this or I should have done that, Maybe I would have protected my ears. There's one, because my ears are screwed. Like I've done so much, I was brought up with guns as a kid, so I have, without hearing protection. Wear hearing protection in loud, environments that is not what you're like wanting to do in your work, like for future mixing, so that's all. I do think as you get older, like when you get to be, over 60, you really start to realize there's no mistakes, really. Everything, like if your life is reasonably good at the point that you're thinking back, you say, well, gosh, everything, whatever traumas, tragedies, bad luck happened, it's got me here. I'm here now. If that hadn't have happened, it could have been much worse. I could have gone down a whole nother worse place. But whatever happened has got me here. And right now it's pretty good. I guess that's what having no regrets means. I don't know if you can do that at a young age. I think when you get older, you finally realize that I kind of made it. I'm alive and I'm still working. When you're young and starting out and getting into it, depending on your personality type and how ambitious you are and how meticulous you are, and also how open you are to fresh ideas, I think you probably do want to work 24 hours a day. I mean, I had days where I worked 24 hours a day. I was sleeping at the studio and in a 3-day period, maybe only getting 4 hours of sleep. And that was as an assistant and a runner and a tape op and making the coffee. I just wanted to be there in the studio. I didn't have a family then, so it changes. Once I got a family, I was lucky enough to be in a position where I moved, eventually I got a studio at home. Pro Tools and going digital allowed me to. I couldn't afford having an analog studio at home, but I could certainly get the computer and a pair of speakers and start working, going in the box in a room with a keyboard and a mouse and a couple of faders. My wife was a recording engineer as well. I mean, she was a very good one. And when we started having kids, she gave that up because we decided we wanted to homeschool the kids. For all those years of the kids, like up until they were 18, 24/7, 365 days a year, we were at home together. You can't really advise somebody to do that. I hope more people can live like that. That was pretty special, and I know not everybody can. I'd start with a template. I start with all the plugins that I have. I have so many tools. If I think about a woodworker, they get over the years, you get a shop full of tools. When somebody asks you to do something you've never done before, I would think that you would go, oh yeah, I can do that. You wouldn't be thinking, oh, I can go out and get this kind of saw, and then I have to buy this kind of hammer, and then I have to buy these kinds of screws, and I need special glue for that. Maybe. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but for the most part, somebody might come to you with something you've never built before. And I think that's the same thing here. Somebody wants me to do a whole different kind of music than I've ever done before. I'm going to use the same tools that I have on everything. It's the music that's going to make me use them differently. I really love a lot of modern music, rap hip hop. As far as, sonically, it's not that I relate to a lot of the lyrics. I'm more of sonic anyway. I don't relate to lyrics from any genre. Most of the time, I'm listening to the vocal as an instrument. I'm not saying the lyrics aren't important. Lyrics are very important, but you can have something sound great and wonderful and emotional without the lyrics being all that good, as long as the emotion behind the music and how it connects with the vocal is also right. I don't have to get into the lyrics. There's a lot of things I don't understand in hip hop. I mean, I understand the words and but I don't know the world. But that's not what I'm listening to. I'm listening to the delivery and the rhythm and the emotion of it. And that's what gets me off. Since the 90s, that's where the experimental stuff is. That genre is pushing the bar in every regard, rhythmically, lyrically, and that's what's inspired me. I just don't hear that much experimentation in pop or rock or folk or whatever other genre you want to pick. It's all right there. D'Angelo, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, Missy Elliott, Timbaland, Jimmy Douglas, That's my inspiration. And I'm not trying to make stuff sound like hip hop. That would be silly. But I'm only concerned really with the emotion of it and what the sonics with, panning, distortion, lo-fi, hi-fi, the contrasts, how that plays to the emotions of a person in any genre. So that's my inspiration these days.